company and then the food itself. But we have a guest speaker from Lake County Office of Emergency Management, Derek Smith, and he'll explain more a little later about who he is and what he does there. So I'd like to first go ahead and stand and just say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. One thing just to be mindful of, December 7th was the attack on Pearl Harbor. There were over 2,300 people killed in a surprise attack by the Japanese. Eventually declared war, and then Italy and Germany also declared war. So it was a very unfortunate event, but it happened. But we just need to remember those service members that have served in all our wars and also who are currently on active duty. So if you'll be mindful of that, and I'll just go ahead and bless this time together. Dear Father, we thank you for our guests. We thank you for the members here in Legacy. I just ask that you allow us to enjoy the time together and be able to appreciate the provisions you've given us. We ask this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Jeanette, she's going to tell us how this is going to work.
Hi everybody, I'm Jeanette Kelly,
Hi, Jeanette Kelly.
and here in the Legacy we have to say what our lot number is, but you guys don't really care. Where I come from, it's cornbread and chicken, but I don't know what you're getting back there. But I would like to talk to you just a teeny bit, am I too loud?
Nope.
A teeny bit about potluck etiquette. Where I come from, there is potluck etiquette. And with COVID, it has been enhanced a little bit. So this evening, our honorable guests will go first, and they will go back through a little maze that we have set up. And while they're doing that, my little helper will take my little lunch can and go around, and on each of your tables, not the head table, on each of your tables is a number. It's a beautiful, glittery number. Pat, come here. Not yet, Pat. Elf, stand, Elf. Not yet, honey. Okay, so everybody got it? And when you go through, please leave room so that the person in front of you can have time to get their food and then come and sit. And I would remind you that potluck etiquette says take small portions. We do have nice plates, thank you Larry and Jerry, but just put small portions and you can always go back. Okay? So if our head table wants to start, then Pat, would you choose a table that's going to draw a pin from our little tin bucket? You ready, did? Well, okay, back there in the far corner, can you tell me what number you have? 8. Which is table number 8? Your table number 8 too? I did not rig this. Okay, and I told Pat that couldn't happen when I explained to her the procedure. Okay, so you will go, the head table, y'all are supposed to go, be gone. I thought you were really eating. Brian, aren't you a part of that?
I am. I'm waiting for my wife to show up.
Oh, she's not here yet?
She came and I haven't seen her since.
Okay. Larry, why don't you go first so they can be sure and follow my little maze correctly. I have little arrows back there. And the Indians will come scalp you if you don't follow my arrows. We'll give them some time.
Yes.
This is Bill Hilchey.
I know most of you have been in my classes before, and so first of all I want to say thank you very much, not only for inviting us to this potluck dinner, but also for your attention, excuse me, in the classes. You guys are fantastic when it comes to student feedback, and that's really helpful to an instructor, so I appreciate all of your interest and all of your questions. How many were in my CPR course? appreciate this. These two redneck boys that were brothers, Daryl and Daryl, they were out hunting one day and they climbed a mountain. And when they got to the mountain, one of the boys collapsed. And the other boy ran over to him and he shook him and there was no response, nothing. So he got on his cell phone and he called 911. And the dispatcher says, "What's your emergency?" "Oh, Daryl collapsed. I don't know what's going on, but Daryl collapsed and I can't get him to talk to me." "Okay," she says, "well, do you know CPR?" And he says, "No, I don't know anything about it." And she says, that's okay, relax." She says, "I'll just talk you through it." She says, "The first thing we have to do is we have to make sure that he's dead." And he says, "Okay, just a minute." Bang! He says, "What's the second step?" Thanks, guys.
Okay, Eric Smith is the Deputy Director with the Office of Emergency Management for Lake County. And I'm going to have him kind of introduce and give his background. Now, when you listen to him speak, he's not from Florida. And he's not from Boston. So you kind of figure out what state he's from. So.
Good evening, everybody. So, thank you very much, Larry, Ryan, for inviting me out here, and thank y'all for letting me come out and spend a few minutes with you this afternoon. It's still dark. Anyway, as Larry said, I'm Eric Smith. I'm the Officer of Emergency Management for Lake County. And even though y'all are in Leesburg, we support Lake County. We support Lake County. We support Leesburg if something goes wrong, because we are that overarching entity that
Thank you.
covers everything. As Larry said, I'm not from these parts. If you look on a map, your map will probably say Georgia. My map calls it God's country. But where I'm from out in the country, cold beer is one word, police is two. Anyway, I'm a retired police lieutenant with the Cat County Police Department, which is all of East Atlanta. While I was there, I did 26, just shy of 26 years there. Ran robbery, burglary suppression teams, tactical units, stuff like that. Served 11 years in the United States Navy, so today is also very near to my heart. Got out as Chief Petty Officer, Master at Arms. So it was, all of my life has been in the public safety emergency management field. And a large part of that's been working for governments in one way or another. So I'm just so happy to be here and spend a few minutes with you chatting. And we want to talk about emergency management. A lot of y'all from picked up understand emergency management, but we want to give you an idea of what we do as a county, what you can expect from us. And as we go through, I've got this fancy little slideshow back here, and it's just to keep me on track so I don't forget things, because I've slept since I put all this together and stuff just falls out of my head. But if you have a question as we're going through, I'm going to give you a few minutes at the end, but don't wait to the end. Go ahead and ask the question then, because if you're thinking about it, somebody else probably will. And that way we can go ahead and just deal with it, talk about it, have a little bit of fun. And if we don't get all the way through the slideshow, I can just push this button right here and it goes away. So then we can make it be done. There we go. So, first off, we've got to have this fancy thing from the government that says what emergency management is and what we're supposed to do. But emergency management is just a managerial function. We provide the overarching framework or guidelines
You can ask
for
them.
which things are handled.
You can ask them.
Many of y'all can attest, there are no
I think
two
we're gonna be okay.
situations that pop up in life that
Yeah.
are exactly the same. So if we try to do an emergency step by step by step, things don't always work that way, because if you're doing CPR on a child, it's very different than doing CPR on an adult. If you're doing CPR out in the sun versus CPR in the snow, which we're never going to see that down here. But anyway, so it's just a basic framework that we provide, and that's really what our team is here to do. And we'll talk specifically about that in just a second. But how it all started was back in the 70s. California was on fire. That happens a lot lately. California seems to be on fire every year. But in 1970, from September 22nd to October 24th, they had just shy of 800 wildfires, and they didn't have the ability to take care of them all properly. They had engine companies from the south end of the state headed up to the north end, people from the north end of the state headed to the south end. They're passing each other on the interstate going, where are you going? Well, we're going to handle a fire in your county. Well, we're going to handle a fire in your county. They didn't talk to each other. They didn't have anything that was really helpful to communicate. And they got a bunch of folks together and they did sort of a John Wayne thing. And they improvised a policy and they got a way to communicate. And out of it came what they called Project Firestroke. Firestroke was made up of a bunch of woodland firefighters, prior Navy people, rural firefighters, now that we said, how can we come up with a general plan on how to manage these major incidents like this so that we're all talking the same language, we're all using the same terminology, we're using similar battle tactics as they go to fight fires and other emergencies. And out of that is what eventually came the incident command system, the multi-agency coordination system, and several other acronyms that fit the federal protocols. But it really became into effect where it affected us on a day-to-day basis when President Bush signed HSPD 5 into law in 2003. That made it mandatory that everybody, except federal funds, that's in law enforcement all the way from the FBI, the military, down to local law enforcement, local villages, has to follow excuse me. Somebody's potluck dinner was yummy tonight. My tongue's going, I want to go have some more. But anyway, we have to follow that national incident management system and incident command structure. So, Lake County, it's a big county. We're rather long. We're 68 miles from north to south, or 62 miles north to south, 38 miles wide. If we go from Ascatula all the way down to Four Corners, Ascatula's right down by Cherries. Astor Park, thank you. If we go from Astor Park all the way down to Four Corners, it takes about an hour and a half. There's very different protocols between the north end of the county and the south end of the county. So we have to keep a very wide array of tools available to us, and we have very different types of scenarios. What's going to happen in Claremont may not work for what's going on in Tavares. As you can see there, we've got the 10 cities, 4 towns, and 15 census designated areas, all within our county. And it just gives us some very unique configuration of people and unique configuration of situations for us to deal with. So what's really particular to us that's interesting, this is a map of Lake County, and the dotted line around it is 1 mile from the edge of the county border. Around that edge, all those lines coming through it are the track of the eye of hurricanes that have come through this area since 1851 when we started.
No kidding.
34 hurricanes have come through where they've been close enough to impact Lake County since 1851. That's one of the reasons we take this so severe, and we put so much emphasis on emergency management and why we do what we do for the county.
I have a question for you. So you're saying these are this is the track of the eyes of the hurricane?
That's correct. These are the track of the eyes of the hurricane.
Where is Leesburg in that?
Leesburg is, Leesburg probably is not sure about that. But right where the county takes a hard right and come to the left a little bit, right around in the middle of those lakes.
So the fallacy that Leesburg has never had a hurricane would be a fallacy?
I don't know that we've had the eyewall come directly over Leesburg, but that's
darn close.
We've had severe impact, yes.
Thank you.
So, but it's not like the city of Tampa or the East Coast where they come up and they like to ride the coast where they've had. That's enough for us to have to pay attention. The last significant impact we've had in the county was with Hurricane Irma in 2017. And she just had such a really wide wind field. Even though we didn't have any significant impact here, other than a tornado in Umatilla and several trailer park model homes, things of that nature had some structural damage. My mom lives in Emerald Lakes down in Claremont. They had a couple of homes destroyed, and then they had one home that had the roof peeled off of it. But that was more for straight line winds and downbursts that were adjacent to the storm. But Irma herself did not directly come in here. It was those surrounding winds that affected us here in Lake County. We've been very fortunate that we have not had a direct impact here in many, many years. So this is our mission statement. And this is really where we get into the meat and bones of what your emergency management team does for you. We prepare and provide for the health, welfare, and safety of the people, visitors, and employees of the county of Lake County from the effects of man-made, natural, or technological disasters. Now, the last one is one that's kind of interesting, is technological disasters. This year alone, we have had a water treatment plant in Tampa, Florida, Oregon, was attacked where they got in and changed the settings on the sodium hydroxide that was going into the water. Could have been fatal, except the operator that was on duty noticed it and took action, so he saved people. We have had a ransomware attack of one of the local hospital systems here in Leesburg that locked up one of our hospitals, IT department. And then everybody probably familiar with the Colonial Pipeline attack that affected everybody up and down the East Coast except those of us that live here in Florida because our oil comes in off tankers directly. So we added that because there is, in today's society, there is such a connectivity to the internet backbone and other network infrastructures that we need to provide specific focus, just like we would to telephone service, power service, water service. So many of the functions of government anymore completely rely on us having a viable internet connectivity to other cities, to the state, and to the country as a whole. But part of this is just kind of, what do we do? We're the difference between how many of y'all say it won't happen to us. We live in Leesburg. We've never had a hurricane, or we can't have a hurricane. Or I'll never catch COVID. That was kind of my opinion until I caught it. Oops. We won't talk about that. Or we're all going to die. Godzilla's coming, and it's up to us to, we're somewhere in that middle ground. It's up to us to figure out exactly what's going to happen and change it. We operate out of the ECOC, the Emergency Communications and Operations Center, which is in Tavares. It's right there in the main government complex. In that building is the Communications Center for the Lake County Sheriff's Office, Fire Rescue, and Lake County Emergency Medical Services. They occupy most of the ground floor. The top floor is our spaces, where we've got the Emergency Operations Center and our staff offices. Our offices, we're only a team of 5. We've got our director, our deputy director, and I appreciate the promotion, but I'm an emergency management associate. We've got a planning officer that takes care of our healthcare facilities, and then we've got our office associate that just kind of make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. But we occupy that 5th floor, or that 2nd floor with the 5 hosts and our 5 offices. This is our Emergency Operations Center. As you can see, it's a pretty big room, and it's just got a bunch of workstations, and probably 70% of the year, this is what it looks like. It's always ready in case we do need to activate it, but it doesn't stay occupied all the time. So if you dial 911, that goes into a room that's below us. This room would be very active if we had a hurricane or some sort of natural disaster. The various tables you saw broke up there are broken up into what we call emergency support functions, or ESS, and they're not grouped what would seem to be logically, they're grouped by what they do. In that first row is all of our operations section, and it starts with 3 and goes up. And then the second row, it just kind of goes across through that way. So they're based on what they do, but this coincides with the state system, which has 18 emergency support functions, and you can see that these are all the different things that would impact the community. Transportation, communications, public works, law enforcement, search and rescue, hazmat. These are all some of the different things that we do. The first 18 we match up 1 for 1 with the state. Lake County, we have added the bottom 4 there for impact assessment, debris. That's something that is unique to Lake County. policies that in 2022. We're going to add a internet or information technology ESF, and then we're going to add one that is dedicated to cybersecurity. We're building a lab for them off our EOC. We're taking a room and repurposing it, and it's going to be dedicated to that internet security and cybersecurity response to protect your government so that they can continue to provide for y'all. The EOC, we have various different monitoring levels and how we operate day to day. We're at level 3. That means no one's in the room. It looks just like you saw it. One of us has gone through and made sure that the computers will turn on, the air conditioning is working, the coffee pot's working. For me, the coffee pot's the most important one. I'm sorry?
Very important.
Yes. So we make sure, and we're working and monitoring the world situation from our desks and what's going on in the county if there's anything that's happening. Level 2 is where we have spent most of the last year and a half. That's where we had a partial activation. Some of our emergency support functions are in. We may be operating out of our offices and there. We may be in the EOC with them. But because of the COVID response, we have stayed at level 2 up until July of this year. We finally went from 2 back to 3 and deactivated all of the EOC. And then level 1 is when everything's active and the room is very busy. We will have all 88 stations manned in the room. We'll have 8 of us at the back at the command table that are making sure that everything's going on, and that's where the decisions are made on how we address what's going on here in the county and how we're supporting Leesburg. Let's just say we had a hurricane come through and it affected y'all here, Leesburg would be that primary agency. We would activate our EOC and support them and coordinate anything that happens between them through that EOC. We wouldn't necessarily take it over from them unless they reached out and they said, okay, we've tapped out, but now we need some help. We reach in, help them support it, and then if we needed even more help, we reach the surrounding counties or even outside the state. Yes, sir.
Derek, got a question. Say 88 people. Where do you get these people from?
88 people, and where do we get the people from is Larry's question. One of the nice things that Lake County has done is if you work for Lake County, you have a job that you were hired to do, we'll say our library services. We get librarians, they go in there, Monday through Friday, they work in the library. We have to activate the EOC. They then get tasked to come to the EOC. Some of them will come in and work our citizens information line. I'll show you that in a second. Others will work in other information areas in the EOC, and we do the same thing. Our building inspectors become damage assessment. Our procurement team becomes our budget and finance people. So everyone is dual-hatted because we only have 5 of us on our team, so we have to manage the room while the people that are in those spaces are doing their additional duty. Law enforcement, Sheriff's Department takes over the law enforcement aspect of the EOC. Fire rescue takes over the search and rescue, hazmat and anything of that nature. And of course, fire operations and EMS takes care of our mass care and works with the Department of Health in Lake County for our shelter. So it's really a team effort where whenever you get hired by the county, it says this is your daytime job, but in an emergency, you could be activated to do something else. But some folks ask us, what is emergency management? And how many of y'all have ever, besides up here at the front table, been in firefighting, law enforcement, military? Did anything when you were in the military go as planned? What's the old saying? The battle plan never survives engagement. Once you put it in action. So what do we really do? Society watches TV and they think we drive around in trucks that are decked out like spaceman spiff. My friends think we dress up in chemical suits and walk around going, Luke, I'm not your father. My family thinks I just sit in a big room playing big video games on big screens. Of course, I kind of think I do resemble Thor. Got a nice beard. Anyway, but it's more like herding cats. We try to bring chaos into some semblance of order. We start that with, there's what we call the emergency management cycle. We start off, we prepare. We try to identify as many different types of incidents that could affect us here at Lake County. Whether it's some sort of criminal event, as we see on the lower side there, flooding due to hurricane, tornado, fire. We do have wildfires quite a bit up in the north end of the county. COVID is something that we've dealt with, or hurricanes, as we've already talked about. But sooner or later, we're going to have one of those situations happen, and we're going to have to respond to it. We want to contain it, and we put as many different assets in there as we can. What that entails, it could be fire rescue, it could be search and rescue, law enforcement, all of those different things you do. Those are all just some of the things. But one of the things that's really important right there is the public warnings. That's when we reach out and say, take shelter, we'll use the word lake, we'll chat on that in just a second. But there's various different ways, things that happen during that response. We want to get it contained as quickly as we can. Once we get it contained, we want to try to recover, because y'all want to get back to having another potluck next week. And yes, I'm available next Tuesday. But you want to recover it so that you can get back to normal. We want to reestablish our business processes. We want to get everything going back into some sort of normalcy. And then we start looking at mitigating. We know that every year from June to November, we're going to have a chance of hurricane impact here at Lake County. So following Irma in 17, following Elsa just this year that ended up being a big non-event, we still had after actions that we said, what can we do to help us get ready for the next event? And we added back into that preparation and start the cycle all over again. So it's not a static event, it's a big moving cycle, and sometimes we'll stop, we'll go to respond to something and think it's bigger than it is, and go, oh wait, it didn't really happen that way. How many of y'all have kids that ever fell down, stubbed their toe, screamed bloody murder, and then you got out there and realized, oh, you just kicked the curb, you kicked the stick, whatever. You go back in the house. Same kind of thing with us. We do them all with particular goals. There are three primary goals that we have whenever we are addressing any incident. The first thing is always life safety. We want to make sure that everybody goes home, wakes up the next morning, and is close to the same condition as they started the day before as we can. The next thing that we want to do is protect as much of our property as we can, because we don't want to do any more damage. We don't want to suffer any more damage than we have to. And then we also want to protect the environment. If we are recovering from a fire, we don't want to wash all the oil down into the Potluck River here, or creek. We want to try to contain and clean it up, because God's given us a great place here to live in Florida. We want to protect those natural environments that we have. So those three things are guiding principles for everything that we do. First is always life safety. Quick question. Since y'all are so highly trained, in an emergency situation, whose safety is the most important?
Your own.
Thank you. That's one of the first times I've had that many people say that. So somebody's a good teacher here, because you can't help anybody else if you don't take care of yourself. So part of our process is what we go through is our citizens information line. I've mentioned it earlier. Anytime our EOC is at level 2 or higher, the CIL is active. And the citizens information line is manned by some county personnel and volunteers. But what it does is it allows us to provide people a single source of truth, a single contact point that's not WDBO or West 2 or whatever, because they're focused on what's going on in Orlando. And just between Orlando and here, the weather could be different, the responses could be different. We saw that with Matthew and Irma both. What was being put out on the news didn't really apply to Lake County. So the citizens information line is one of our critical areas. The next thing that we do is, as part of our recovery process, sometimes in the response process, we open up pods, points of distribution. And the top right one is just a water distribution pod we had opened. I don't remember which event it was. But the bottom one there is from our COVID vaccine center that we had in Leesburg at the Lake Square Mall. I ran that event for 91 operational days. We did 114,513 vaccines in that one site in just a little over 4 months. So that was another one where we relied heavily on people from the community, as well as our own teams to run that vaccine center. We operate shelters during hurricanes. All of our high schools, elementary and middle schools in Lake County can be deployed as hurricane shelters. And we run cold weather shelters during cold weather events that are primarily handled through houses of worship, faith-based initiatives. Right now, we've got Trinity Assembly of God in Fruitland Park and Life Point out in Eustis are our two primary cold weather shelters. We do community outreach events. We want to teach people how to be fire safe, how to build a kit, hurricane preparation for your homes, things like that. We love to come out and do community outreach events. Sometimes we need a bit of to bring out weather radios to give out that we have bought, and y'all get to reap the benefits of those. We also go through and support special events. This is from the Leesburg Bike Fest, where our team supported them through the Bike Fest, a couple of weeks ago now. And those are always opportunities where we get to get in and get involved with the community. And then I understand, do I have any hand radio operators in the room with us tonight?
I don't know if they showed up, we have at least two.
Yeah, I know that we've got a couple of folks that are part of our Aries team. They were Laura, the Lake Amateur Radio Association. Same group of guys, we just have a different term for legal purposes. We call it Aries, the Amateur Radio Emergency Services. But they operate ham radios because one of the things that happens, especially historically, power lines go down, phone lines go down, there's lack of communication. Well, now we've got cell phones. Cell phones always work, right? That's why we have ham radio still. Because ham radio will still work even when cell towers go offline. And we have seen that happen. We had a cell tower down in Claremont go offline just because it got struck by a massive bolt of lightning a few years ago. Wiped the entire tower out. And if you were a T-Mobile customer in that part of Claremont, for about 6 weeks you had very limited service. I'm a T-Mobile customer. Some of the other things that you can do to help yourself, help your community is staying informed. News, TV news when it's on is always a great source. It's good to get an idea of what's going on in the region. I wouldn't rely on it specifically for that hyper-local. If you need that hyper-local, weather radios, we kind of touched on that a little bit, but everybody should have one and it should have a battery backup. Your cell phone should have the wireless emergency alerts turned on. And that's one of those things so that you can get as much information as you can. And then I've got to give a plug for our Alert Lake program, which is one of the best ones I have seen in my career, both between Atlanta and here in Florida. The Alert Lake program works very, very well. If you subscribe to everything though, you're going to get everything from mosquito abatement to weather problems, large-scale events that may happen. So sometimes you may go, But if you get logged into that and you're getting more information than what you want, reach out to someone from our office because we manage the Alert Lake and we can help you set your subscriptions, if you will, so you only get the ones you want. You can also help yourself by staying informed by using your cell phone. These are some from a hurricane apps that are really, really good. You've got FEMA's app, which has several different resources that are available for multiple types of emergencies, as does the Red Cross. The Red Cross, you can pick and go, this is my emergency, this is what I'm seeing, and it can, one of their apps will actually give you a checklist of this is the stuff you should be doing. Hurricane Tracker is great if you're a weather nerd. If you're somebody that really wants to spend money and get a lot of information out of it, you can, but it is a pay-for subscription. And then there's WeatherBug. WeatherBug, I've got to give them props. They have the most number of weather stations. They have the most robust, is that real good English? Public education in Georgia, I'm sorry. But WeatherBug has more local information. It slows your phone down and all that kind of stuff. But if you really want to know what that hyper-local information is, WeatherBug is probably a great source. And then there's always the National Weather Service. Our Melbourne team, we work very closely with them, and they've got new software, new modeling capabilities that you can get down to a single square mile, and it's pretty accurate. Hurricane Pro is another one that's a pay Other big resources that are available, we've got FEMA, they've got a great website, FloridaDisaster.org. We got to give them props because they do a lot of work with us. Ready.gov and Red Cross, but of course we always want you to go to our website for Lake County because we want to support y'all. We are the folks that are here that live with you, that now break bread with you, thank you. And we're the ones that can give you that support at that local level faster than any of the other ones can. If you want to do more, if you want to go further, there's the FEMA independent study. You can go through all the IS classes that we go through. The nice thing about these is they're free. You can do them from home. You can do them in your fussy bunny slippers. You can do it with bourbon and cigar. I would not recommend the bourbon until you finish the test. It may not come out the way you expected it. Anybody sailors out of the service members had? Because they would understand the bourbon or rum, but anyway. But it's all stuff that you can take yourself. In particular, we recommend 100, 200, 230, and 700. If you remember those, if you don't, reach out. Ask me, Brian, Larry. We can make sure that you get access to the ones that you're interested in. Skywarn is a storm spotting training that the National Weather Service provides, and they've got their basic and their advanced. It's kind of fun. I've been on both of those. Amateur radio CERT is community emergency response teams. Our CERT team is inactive right now here in Lake County, but we are working to build that back up and get it rolling soon. And then there's the website for the training, training.fema.gov/IS. But if you just Google independent training for FEMA, it'll take you right to this site. Other ways that you can learn more is volunteering. Sharing information is so critical. And learning from each other, because we've got experiences that y'all can relate to each other in any type of emergency situation. We are even looking at adding additional volunteers. I don't want to rob y'all got going on here at Legacy. Home takes first, but if somebody wants to add a little more time, if you've got more time, then you've got stuff to do, which I don't imagine that. But we would love to see other volunteers, and you can chat with me later on if you want some more information on that. Okay, so I just went through what could be an hour's worth of information as quickly as my southern tongue will allow me. Any questions? Any additional questions? Crickets. I like crickets. And if I don't get a question, I'm going to have to sing and dance, and that's just bad. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the question was, could we talk about mutual aid agreements with the various areas? From a fire and paramedic side, all of our county, the municipalities in the county are interconnected, so that's already built in. So if we had a structure fire down in Claremont, it's too big for the city of Claremont to handle. The county would come in and help them. Tavares Mason, Roland Mason. But we also have similar agreements with Sumter County, with Orange County, Polk, all of our surrounding counties as part of the state mutual aid pact. So if we had a large enough event here in Lake County, we could see Orange County fire trucks. In fact, we actually utilized part of the mutual aid agreement and had paramedic crews from down in Manatee County, I think it was, manning a couple of EMS trucks here in Lake County. As part of the COVID, because we had a small bowel COVID run through EMS. So we've got a very robust mutual aid program between us and our surrounding counties and the rest of the state. We also sent, as part of that process, we sent communications teams from Lake County Sheriff's Office out to Texas for the flooding that was out there a few months ago. Other questions? And no, I will not sing that.
No, I wanted to see you. I have no music for you.
Any other questions? Okay, so here's number 352-343-9420. And if I don't have any other questions, I thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a blessed evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of administrative things before we have the drawings. Trash is in the back. There's a place, I think, for the silverware. Right, so forks, knives, spoons, read the labels on that one. And, where'd Gary go?
He took off this directly.
I just reminded if anybody needs any more desserts, there's still plenty back there. I want you to help us draw. We've got about 6 prizes